Hello. Good morning. How is everyone? Are we good? This is a good thing. Well, thank you very much for coming to Event Tech Live. This is Europe's largest dedicated event technology event. And my name's Matt Wilson. I am the Sales and Marketing Director for a company called D2I Systems. And I'm here to show you, or at least give you a little bit of advice around how you can use event technology to drive revenue in your organization. It's probably worth starting really with who D2I are and who I am. So D2I, we are really a specialist software house. We've been around for about 15 years, and we make money by going into companies to tailor our software to help them deliver the, I suppose, data, sales, marketing, operations, and finance journeys. So effectively, we were probably the first true all-in-one event management platform. And that's why I've got the background from a technology point to sit here and help you understand how to use that technology to drive your revenue. To give you an idea of who we work with, so D2I operate in Europe and the Middle East predominantly, and we're working with quite a wide portfolio of customers in terms of what they do. So our bread and butter was B2B exhibition organisers and conference organisers in the beginning. But we're also working now, as the years have gone on, with large outdoor event suppliers, sporting events. So here we've got people like the Clarions of the world, the Messe Frankfurts of the world. But we also work with Farnborough Air Show. We work with the Chelsea Flowers Show. We work with UCAS. So it's quite a wide range of event types, but they all have a requirement to drive revenue. And that's really why I decided to do this talk, because as a salesperson working for D2I, I visit probably somewhere in the region about 100, 150 companies every single year. And the number one process that seems to be ignored, not seems actually, it's completely ignored if I'm honest, is the sales journey. It's the finance journey. It's the thing that makes your organization tick, because without your sponsors, without your exhibitors, without people who pay for your events, effectively you've got no event. You've got no reason for people to come to it, but yet it is always neglected as a process. And if you're lucky, you might have event organizers that use a decent sales lead management system, but it's not designed for the events world. And if you're really unlucky, they'll still be working on pen and paper, or maybe Excel. And you know what? Events do run like that. And I've launched events using an Excel spreadsheet in the past. And it was okay. However, the amount of money I could have generated, not just during the point of sale, but throughout the whole event life cycle, could have been incredibly higher. And more profitable for my bosses, certainly, and also my back pocket as well. D2I, as a business, our technology has actually been voted last year as the best sales technology at the Event Technology Awards, so we do know what we're doing, and we do have a bit of credential behind this. And from my point of view, before I became a supplier and a techie of sorts, I actually started life as an organizer, as one of you are. So I began life working in companies like Tarsus, Informa, UBM, selling anything from award tables, delegate packages, high-level sponsorship packages, and exhibitor space. And before that, I was in the publishing industry. So I approached this and this talk here from a position of experience. I've done this, and this is what we advise our customers to do. So really, there's two areas where I would recommend implementing technology, and I mean specifically event technology to drive your revenue. On the one side, we've got technology that's going to help the sales teams who are out on the front line. They're in the trenches, they're out there driving your business and driving your revenue. So there's a few helpful hints around that. And then from a strategic point of view, and from a management point of view, there is then a number of areas outside of the direct customer interface where you can generate revenue and use the event technology in a way that gives you information to drive the yield and drive the value in your products and your offering. So really the first area, if we start here with sales teams, there's going to be three things you're going to be looking for realistically. On the whole, new business is always going to drive your company and your event. If you're not out there and you haven't got sales teams trying to generate new relationships, even if they're small at the beginning, your business is going to start walking backwards. there aren't many event models or event topics that actually last in terms of the amount of time they're around. They've probably got a fairly limited shelf life in terms of the topic. They'll either get amalgamated into another show or they'll just die off. There is a life cycle there. So if you're not winning new business and you're not helping your sales teams do that, your events are in trouble. And also then there's the sales process around the existing customer base, which traditionally, if we're looking at the sales model and how the sales teams interact with your existing customers who are there, they support your business, they pay your wages, they pay your bills, most of the selling is actually done here. It's done on the show floor. It's done through the rebooking process, and it's done through the exhibitor drinks, it's done through building a relationship. But yet, most organisers don't give their teams, whilst they're in a situation like this, the information or the technology to really drive home the value of what's going on here. For example, it'd be lovely for Mr. Parry to tell us, if we were over there, exactly who was walking over to our stand in real time. And that's what our technology can do, because it's centralised. But yet most teams are out trying to get people to re-sign up for an event without actually being able to prove in real time the ROI of what the event is delivering. And the main thing really is around attrition. Most events will have a 20 to 30 on average % attrition rate of all their shows. They will have clients that come along and they will work with them year in, year out. They're almost a given, really, and easy to overlook. However, the attrition rate for new customers is quite staggeringly high, and the reason it's high is because they will not re-sign up to an event, so they don't really understand the value of it. And sales teams need to have the intelligence and the data to help sell your event over any one of a number of mediums which the events industry has always had to compete against. In the old days, this may have been newspapers, it may have been magazines, it may have been television, it may have been radio. These days, you've got digital platforms which can prove in real time actually who's interacting with content, who's interacting with the medium itself. And actually, in the event space, although we're very good at seeing who's here, we know there's an audience, but who are the audience, why are they here, and how have they interacted with not just your stand or your customer's stand, but also similar customer stands who are targeting the same audience. And the number one thing that sales teams lack in that attrition rate is that, in the rebooking process, should I say, is the ability for a telesales conversation to prove in real time who attended the show. Because on the whole, event technology, which will capture all this lovely rich data for you, is segmented away from the sales team. So the first thing you need to do with your event technology and your sales teams is to link up the data that's being captured here on the show floor and give it to your sales team, which sounds a bit of a ridiculous thing. They're going out almost blind. They have no idea, apart from a media pack, really, which gives you headline figures about who the audience are. Whereas what our customers can do, and the users of our system, or the users of any decent event sales lead management tool, is have access to data that they can use to make sure that they sound competent, they sound authoritative, and they sound like they know the customer. Because when they can ask a customer in real time, who are your audience? What are you looking to gain? And it's not just leads. It's always a misleading red herring. It's not always the ROI on a lead capture level, but what are they actually trying to get from the show? Is it more exposure? Are they trying to find partners to acquire? It could be anything, but without giving the salesperson the ability to, whilst they're on the phone, find out what the audience has been and why people attended, they're going out to bat effectively with no real hook, nothing to really tell the story, nothing to really close the deal. So that's the first main thing, is giving sales teams the access through event technology and through centralized data, the access to your marketing data, really. And that's normally a thing in businesses that's siloed and kept separate. Here's an example here of an event sales CRM. There are many CRMs, as I'm sure you're all aware, and many sales lead management platforms. But something different about event technology and how an event technology sales lead management platform will work. first and foremost, actually, our industry is quite nuanced. What you're selling and what you need to give proposals out for, what you need to capture as a salesperson to give to your operational team to make sure that the customer journey is really good and the experience is really good, is not catered for within a sales CRM, a generic one. It does not capture how many open sides you have on your stand. It won't capture whether or not you need to have the backing designed by the contractor. It won't capture whether it's going to be 2 stories or 1 story. And these are the things that actually between a sales lead management process, once the contract is signed, has to be given to an operations team and a finance team, normally through an email if you're lucky, or sometimes physically handed on a piece of paper and given to someone to input. This is an example here of the Engage platform that D2I produce. And the reason it works so well is that actually a salesperson, as they're building trust and as they're taking that journey along, they are inputting all of the information that an ops team will need, what a finance team are going to need to actually deliver that service, so that when that contract comes back in, the ops team know exactly what's been sold. They know where the stand location is, they know what contractor services have been sold, they know everything. And that's a huge thing from a customer service point of view, because it is those unfortunate drops in communication between sales, operations, and finance that cause grumbles with your customers. And it actually detracts from the salesperson having an opportunity to increase the yield of the relationship and go back to that customer and sell more, because they're actually dealing with customer complaints, they're dealing with niggles, with grumbles. So that's something that I would recommend completely if you are looking to drive your sales teams and make sure that they're able to deliver a great service and come across as competent and authoritative. Use event technology and use a sales system that's designed for the events market. When looking at attrition, something that boggles the mind almost, and I had this as an exhibition salesperson. If you're really lucky, you'll have great sales teams that will probably be from the portfolio. If we're really honest, most of the people walking around a show doing a rebook will probably be brought in from a different portfolio. They'll probably be brought in really with maybe a bit of a £20 or a book voucher type commission structure. They're not really driven to drive your event. And they might go around and speak to the customers during the show, if you're lucky. But on the whole, they don't really have too much to ask apart from giving a sense of urgency, which is we're doing a rebook and your stand is going to go. You've got until the end of the day, and if you don't sign up, your stand's going to be off the market. This will be sold to somebody else. That's really the only story, it's the only sense of urgency and help that a salesperson can give, because they don't have any data, they don't have any intelligence to help that customer improve their show. What I'm showing here is an example of a live dashboard that our customers can use during a show to understand exactly who's come to their customer's booth or stand. And looking at attrition, one of the main reasons you'll have people leave, because often the signatory, the marketing director, isn't physically there at the show. They'll just get some feedback saying, "Had a really, really bad show and the sales team didn't find it very good, so we won't rebook with you. And you've lost the revenue that you've spent a lot of money trying to generate in the first place." Whereas actually, wouldn't it be a nice world if you had the access to the live data to understand exactly who was turning up to that customer's stand, and actually whether or not they had a good success rate. If they were there to advertise tyres for a car event perhaps, did they attract an audience that were looking to buy tyres? And if not, why not? And is there anything actually during the show that that salesperson who's looking to get a contract back from that customer, is there anything they can do actually in real time to try and change the fortunes of that exhibitor, to change their experience? And if you use centralized data and event technology well, what you can achieve is a world where your sales teams can see the performance of each exhibitor on the show floor, and it gives them a chance to competently and authoritatively help that customer and do it in a consultative way that actually means they're engaged with your event, they feel that they've got great customer service, and it's not going to reduce attrition completely, but it will certainly help to make sure that that customer feels like you care and understand their business model. From a management point of view, really, there's a couple of themes that I would use event technology for. One is really looking at the sales inventory. So quite often with sales, marketing, ops, and finance being separate systems, once the point of sale, once the handshake is gone, once the contract's in the bag, actually you'd be quite surprised about how little there is in terms of interaction with that customer. But second sales and seconds revenue is always better and easier to generate. So making sure you're using your event technology during your, what we would call the exhibitor manual journey or the post-sales journey, to recommend new services, almost like the kind of Amazon model and the e-commerce model is a really good thing to use event technology for, and link that sales journey up. And also using the technology and the data that you've got to generate different sales items at different price rates. It's far easier for your teams to negotiate knowing that they've got 10 products of 10 different values rather than having 3 or 4 and eventually having to discount off your floor rate or your sponsorship rate because they don't really have anywhere else to go. If you use the data well, you can move from a square meter value-based proposition to one of actually a value-based proposition based on the location and therefore the ROI in terms of the audience that they're trying to do, but you need good data and technology to achieve that. From a productivity point of view, if you can join all your systems together, your administration will naturally drop down, and it will therefore give your sales teams far, far more time to actually sell and canvas new customers. And from a business intelligence point of view, from a strategic point of view, you want to use that data as business leaders to understand actually, are there new trends, are there new zones, are there new events that we can launch that aren't being catered to, and help drive more revenue for your business. My parting thoughts to give you an absolute nth degree version of what technology can do. One of our customers is UCAS, who are the highest, well, they're the largest higher education admissions body in the world. And D2I effectively put in a system that gave UCAS the ability to run and automate the sales process for 52 exhibitions simultaneously, which allowed their customers to go in, choose stands, book contractor services, book advertising opportunities, invite their guests, register their staff, run sales lead retrieval, all from within one system. So if you really want to take technology to the nth degree and deploy it as a centralized system, you can have really an all-in-one solution here, which is what we've delivered. That's the results. As a parting thought, we've only got a few minutes left, so I'll leave some for questions, but effectively, if you're going to start this journey, you really want to implement technology very, very well. You need to think of 4 things, really. One is around your data. You need to centralize your data. There are differing arguments about how you would achieve that. From a D2I perspective, the reason we're so strong is that we centralize data within one platform rather than integrating separate platforms. It's far cheaper and far more effective doing it that way, if I'm honest. It's a shameless plug, but there we go. If you're going to invest in technology, do buy technology that's driven by the needs of the event sector. There are many, many suppliers who say, hand on heart, they can deliver and meet your needs. You'd be very surprised actually how well they really understand the needs of the event sector. The third one really is a sales pitch for you. As business leaders, you need to implement this technology, but you need to take your teams with you, and you need to sell your vision. There are always going to be teams that dislike change, and there will always be that small group of super salespeople who will, no matter what you put in front of them, never use the technology. And you need to sell them the vision of why that's good and why it's going to help them make more money for your business. And last but not least is training. We could probably spend hours talking about sales training within the exhibitions market. It's a bugbear for most people who come from our industry. But around technology, one thing I will know is that, and I've seen it with several systems that our companies come in to effectively replace, is that probably didn't have a bad system from a sales lead management point of view, but the reason it didn't work is because they didn't actually keep the training up with the teams. They didn't actually sell the vision. And people start to use that technology less. They don't understand what it does, and effectively it becomes redundant because no one has faith in it anymore. So if there's one thing you should definitely do, it's invest in the training around your technology. That's pretty much about it. I've got a couple of minutes of questions if anyone has any. There we go. So let's have a look. So how do companies like D2I differentiate themselves from their competitors here today? Well, that's a very good question. We differentiate ourselves because effectively we're like a very good tailor in the market. We take our technology, and it's not just the technology, it's the experience, it's the consultancy, it's the knowledge about how events work and how to implement that technology in a successful way. And we tailor it to each of the workflows of our customers, so they all use the Engage platform, but I can guarantee you every single one, without fail, has a nuance within their business. And going back to training and going back to confidence in systems, the problem with the system is it doesn't 100% work. Over a period of time, the confidence in that system starts to wane and drop off, and actually the users don't have the confidence to use that system very well, and its usefulness to the business starts to decrease. Around data, is there too much data? No. There's never too much data from an events point of view. The challenge is, if you're looking at how you filter it, you've got to have an understanding within your organization. If you're looking to centralize data and sales processes, you need to have an internal conversation about what data you're looking to capture. And the number one thing I see going into new companies is that they've got actually quite astute marketing departments that capture lots of fantastic statistics. However, they're not all singing from the same hymn sheet. They're capturing different information that cannot really be compared against one another because they're working in silos. So really to have an internal data policy that's agreed first across your business is a really decent thing. And let's have a look at the last two. How can branding support event revenue? Well, it can always support event revenue and branding. As with all exhibition spaces, needs to be proven. You need to give people an idea of who the audience are. It's no different from selling display adverts in the print world. You have to give some form of evidence as to who that audience are. And I suppose that dovetails into question number 3 around how reliable is it? Well, it's only as reliable as the information that you think you're getting. Something that is really useful around the centralization of data, and it's an interesting story for the future, is that all event organizers will tend to canvass and survey the audience to find out who they are and what they're coming to buy. But how reliable that is somewhat questionable. I'd give you a comparison. It's a bit like putting together a shopping list. When you go as a delegate, you're saying, I'm going to buy this, I can spend this much money, and I'm going to spend it at this time of the year. But if you was to go shopping and you write your shopping list out for your groceries, actually you might say, I'm going to be really healthy this week. I'm going to go and buy salad. I'm going to buy the fat-free yogurts. I'm going to buy this. But actually, if you could watch where people were walking around that supermarket, which is no different from an exhibition hall, they'll probably go to the dessert aisle. They might go to the wine aisle. And actually using your centralized data to find out, in terms of reliability, where people went rather than where people told you they were going to buy, that's the real utopian vision. That's how you can get a fantastic idea of who your audience are and what they're really looking to buy. Now, whether you want to advertise that out on your media packs or not is up to you, but at least it's true data and true intelligence. I think that's all the questions. So unless there's any more, which there aren't, I'm going to leave you to enjoy the show. Thank you very much for coming to my talk, my presentation. Have a great show, and if you have any other questions, by all means come over to the D2I stand over there in the corner. Thank you.